Sup, suppers? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me have some more RPG horror stories. I don't know if you guys heard anything about D&D lately, but I hear that WotC and Blizzard are doing a crossover for World of Warcraft D&D 5e. Just letting you know, there are a lot of material already out there in case you wanted to run your own World of Warcraft D&D campaign for the 5e conversion that you don't have to give WotC any money for. What is another D&D 5e conversion that you really like, or maybe you played before in the past? It was really fun. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'm gonna get some RPG horror stories for today. Satanist DM kills Cleric and Paladin in first session. I was offered a spot into Descent into Avernus campaign a couple of weeks ago by a friend that I played Strahd and a few one-shots with. They said their friend was DMing a Descent campaign, wanted to have it turn into a tabletop version of BG3 campaign. I joined the Discord server, and aside from some questionable profile pictures, everybody was chill. Session 0 comes up, and before we go into character creation, the DM asks us to go around and introduce ourselves by telling everyone our preferred name, pronouns, experience with D&D, and one interesting fact about ourselves. Kind of like what teachers made everybody do in school. So we all went ahead just casually introducing ourselves to each other, and then it was the DM's turn. They mentioned they are a Satanist, and we were kind of like, oh, how fitting a Satanist was running a Descent campaign, and had a laugh. My friend who invited me then messaged me that the DM's knowledge of Satanism and the Bible seems to from Hasbin Hotel and a few episodes of Lucifer. I responded, a performative Satanist is not something I even thought I would encounter. We'll continue the character creation. Dude, I can't imagine. I find it so goofy. I can't imagine somebody being literally a Satanist after watch Hasbin Hotel once, immediately Satanist. Oh, that's stupid. That's dumb, dude. That's dumb. I never watched any episodes of Lucifer, but to claim that you're a Satanist after you watch Hasbin Hotel once, you know what it's like? It's when a 5-year-old watches Power Rangers and are saying, I am Power Rangers now, because they like Power Rangers. It's ridiculous. It's just, you're so juvenile. How old is your DM, dude? Okay, it's one thing if, let's say, for example, there were Satanists for years and years that have decades of experience being a Satanist, I guess. But watch Hasbin Hotel episode 1 once and you become a Satanist? That is cool. That's not Satanist. You just getting on a stupid trend. That's all you're doing. That's dumb. Let's continue. I was playing a monk. My friend went Cleric. The other 3 players were Warlock, Paladin, and Fighter. When my friend decided to go Cleric, the DM responded with a very focused evil chuckle and said, "Your funeral." When the other players wanted to play Paladin, DM snickers again and does another fake laugh. 1 week later, we have the first session. Well, in Elthorel and having some fun RP with each other and then NPCs. To the DM's credit, we were good at RP and accents. Then the crisis begins, and Elturel begins to be dragged into Avernus, making rolls to escape the city and whatnot, but despite Cleric and Paladin making comparable, if not better rolls than the rest of us, they're dragged into Avernus with the city. Then DM narrates the surroundings as they're being transported into Avernus, and mentions a very attractive woman with devilish horns and massive wings lands before them.
Well now, what do we have here? 2 more pious lambs for eternal slaughter.
Paladin attempts to say something.
She cast whole person on you.
How far away is she?
60 feet.
I cast Guiding Bolt.
Doesn't work.
What?
It's almost as if being such an unholy and hellish place, your connection to your god has been severed, and you're being forsaken.
So I'm just powerless?
The woman laughs at you. Your pathetic god has forsaken you, priest. You have no power here. You're in my realm now.
Who are you?
My name? Why, I am Lucille Morningstar.
Okay, so you basically took Lucifer Morningstar from Hasbin Hotel, gender banned them to Lucille, and then just put him into this campaign? Cringe! Fucking cringe! Okay, listen, I like the music in Hasbin Hotel Season 1. I have not seen Season 2. Apparently, Mary has seen Season 2, and she disliked it so much, she told me that she's not willing to watch it with me, even though we watched the first season together. So, clearly rubbed, her the wrong way, which is crazy. Mary's not the kind of person to just drop something out of nowhere. Even if it's kind of mid, even if it's not that good, she usually would still rewatch stuff, but she disliked it that much, she doesn't even want to watch it. That's kind of telling. telling, which makes me kind of worried about watching it. Maybe it's good. Maybe she just really didn't like the songs or something. Who knows? But this is just straight up cringe, right? There's one thing like in Hasbin Hotel. There's another thing to just absolutely take whatever that media is and force it down everyone's throats, and then make the two players that are picked, Paladin and Cleric, powerless because you're a Satanist after watching Hasbin Hotel episode 1 once, and that's it. The pilot that you watched on YouTube turning into a Satanist, that is insane. That is just beyond insane. Clerics and Paladins don't just lose the power for the sake of losing the power. They have to do something specific, or something has to happen for them to be separated from the godly power. I mean, Paladins themselves get the powers not from the gods necessarily, but their own. This is a DM that is trying to put this some sort of a fan fiction fantasy as a forefront and punish the two players for, God forbid, wanted to play Cleric and Paladin. God forbid. Sorry, me mentioning God is bad, right? Because we deal with Satanist DM. The watch Hasbin Hotel once, guys, and now they're Satanists, clearly. This is just a cringe fan fiction. That's all it is. I audibly sigh at the lack of any subtlety. Can I repeat my saving throw for the whole person?
As you struggle, she cast Power Word Kill on you.
Huh?
Pity. He was most handsome.
Turns to Cleric.
As you cast Disintegrate at ninth level.
My friend leaves the call immediately after, and the DM says,
well, that's one way to introduce the big bad.
The rest of us were immediately critical of them and asked why they singled out Cleric and Paladin.
I'm not about the whole holy soldier or righteousness thing in my games. It's boring, and it's a descent game that should have seen that coming.
So we don't like religious characters in a fantasy world filled with all kinds of gods?
Well, I am a Satanist. I'm not big on gods or religion.
You edgy bitch. This Discord disconnect sound. Me, fight a warlock, burst out laughing and leave soon after. Needless to say, nobody showed up scheduled second session, and I haven't heard anything from the DM. My friend says he felt like he overreacted, but I assured him the Paladin clowned the DM and everybody felt similarly. I'm going to stay in touch with the other players for that game because they were still cool. Oh my god, it is so stupid. It is really stupid. No, you know what? I'm a fighter. The DM is just an edgy bitch at the end of the day. They just really, it is so cringe, dude. It just really cringe. In a game where gods exist, but also godlike powers exist. And I mean, you could technically consider Asmodeus from the Hells is technically in the same power level of a god, being an archdevil. I guess it's kind of like a hellish deity in a sense. Very godly and reverent. You're gonna be removed that too? Do gods just not exist? Hey, if you didn't want people to play Cleric and Paladin, maybe it could have just went, hey, play anything other than Cleric and Paladin, because I want to try to play a campaign where Clerics and Paladins lose their powers and just go from there. But no, they decided to let the players choose their class they wanted to play without any sort of caveats or talking to the players ahead of time, just to pull this insanity with their own little Lucille Morningstar fan fiction probably a self-insert at this point, honestly. It's a fan fiction insert and it's probably a self-insert at the end of the day. I bet you they were thinking themselves how they were cool and edgy with that. No subtlety whatsoever, no nothing at all. It's just cringe upon cringe upon cringe. Let's go ahead and get to the next story for today. 15 months in the Cuck chair LARP. Okay, I chose this story because of the title. I don't know anything the story has anything to do with, but the title, dude, the 15 months in the Cuck chair. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like a really dumb student film that is uploaded to YouTube. It only has 15 views, but it's probably the greatest, most funniest thing you've ever seen because it's just so ridiculously stupid. It's funny. It's so dumb. It's funny kind of thing. Anyway, let's see this Cuck chair story. My first LARP experience was a monthly Vampire the Masquerade game. For many of you, that would be enough to set alarms ringing. But boredom and curiosity are a hell of a combo. And so begins my 15 months in the RPG Cuck chair. Cuck chair, Jesus. I have to stress what a great group this was overall. At its center, however, was a cadre of 3 to 5 players who had been LARPing together for over 20 years. GM, very much a member of the inner circle, insisted of being the only referee/storyteller. That I had bad experience with the GM team politics in the past made sense. This is a group of 20 plus players. How would everyone get a fair chance of downtime and personal plot progression? Well, see now, that's the neat part. They didn't. As months rolled by, it became clear who was playing the game and who was an NPC. Often we'd turn up the venue and find out the inner circle's characters had already decided everything amongst themselves during their downtime. The rest of us turned up and paid our money to be told, this is what happens, you can't change it, eat crap. Just talk amongst yourselves for a few hours and go home. One player was invariably central to the elite, and by sheer chance, they just so happened to be the GM's spouse. Imagine that. Every big event seemed to have their characters at its center, or rather, characters, plural. They were allowed to play multiple characters. At one point, they were playing more than one at the same time. Each had a radically different speciality. More on that later. What was I doing at the time? Well, for the most part, I was enjoying myself, albeit less and less of the status quo became apparent. But that's a vampire, right? Gotta play the long game. So I played the long game. I spent over a year of my actual real life maneuvering my character into the position of influence over 3 other key vampires. Once I found my moment to pay this little plot off, it would be curtains for the inner circle. That moment never came. GM Spouse's latest creation might as well have been mathematically built to deny my character's whole scheme. In one scene, involving some sussy BS on GM's part, that broke my hold on 2 of my victims. Exposed, my character moved to at least capitalize on the 3rd victim and salvage some advantage from this year-long plan. GM shut it down. And here's the underlying problem. GM was, honestly, kind of a dick. At the slightest inconvenience, they talked to you like you were somebody they found at the bottom of their shoe. I think autism was involved, but that's only excuses so much, especially if you put yourself in such a central social position. In my haste to pay off a great reduced version of my plot, GM denied the scene entirely and accused me of ruining their holiday for doing a bargain basement version of their buddies had been doing for the past 15 months. That was the last straw and I quite loved the game. 10 out of 10 authentic VtM LARP experience. Would cuck again. Okay, well, the story definitely was not about being, I guess you kind of cucked out of the, you weren't being a cuck and you weren't being cucked. You cucked out of the story and you cucked out of being a important person in this LARP. Also, what do you even host a Vampire Masquerade LARP? Do you just go to somebody else's house and just play out to be your character? Or do you go to like an abandoned like nightclub or something on the days off and pay the venue there? How does that even work? I can't even imagine it. But also, you probably shouldn't have paid this. You actively, I think, I gotta say, I think the egg's on your face in this situation. You were cucked. Like you were the cuck in a situation. You paid to be part of this LARP for a full year to have the plot points be resolved in order to play some sort of a big long game. I'm sure that maybe for you it just didn't seem to be that big of a deal. You just really wanted to see if you could really screw somebody over or just try to, I don't know, have some sort of presence and involvement in the story. But you were never going to be allowed to play anything. I mean, this was actually very apparent from the start because, as you said, GM basically talked to the 5 people that are most important and everybody else basically sat around just kind of roleplay with themselves and did nothing for 2 hours. I think you should have just noticed the signs and should have left. I think the egg is on your face in this situation. Guys, if it's a bad game that you're playing or a bad LARP or whatever the hell you're involved in, you don't have to stay there, let alone for a year, dude. A year is a lot in time. That's a lot of investment, a lot of your personal time that is being drained. Guys, listen, this DM is clearly a vampire. There are a time vampire and a patience vampire and a money vampire because they do nothing but just draining your patience and time and involvement in this whole thing. You shouldn't have been a member in the first place. I don't know why you stuck around for a year. I have no idea why you decided to keep giving them money to join this LARP. You shouldn't have been part of it. You should have left. You should have spent your money wisely. You should spend your time wisely. Guys, money you can make, time you can never make back. Time is always lost. Time is an incredible, most valuable currency you can possibly have to not waste it in these kind of bad games. No D&D, no Vampire the Masquerade LARP is better than bad Vampire the Masquerade LARP, okay? Do something better with your time and respect yourself at the end of the day. Let's move on to the next story for today. New to D&D, is this normal or should I leave the group? I'm new to D&D and this is my first campaign. We've been playing for about 8 months for around 20 sessions. Up until recently, I was having a great time. For context, my character is a woman who'd been disguised as a man for the entire campaign. Stayed a secret for months because none of the other characters ever investigated or questioned it. And the reveal finally happened during last session I attended. The following session I couldn't make it because I was on vacation in another country. My character was unconscious during that session. After the game, one of the other players texted me, proudly telling me that he had used magic to shrink my unconscious character breasts as a joke. This wasn't something I had even described in detail, and he seemed to think it was funny. I was honestly horrified, so I asked the DM, since when can another player modify someone else's character's body without their consent? His response was basically, since you're unconscious, as he tried to reassure me that saying it was only temporary. I know it's just a game, and I know the effect wasn't permanent, but that's not really what bothers me. What bothers me is that another player thought it was okay to alter my character's body without asking me, while I wasn't even at the table. DM's response was essentially that it was allowed because my character couldn't stop it. Now I feel really uncomfortable about returning to the campaign. I don't know if I'm reacting because I'm new to D&D or is this genuinely a red flag. Is this kind of thing considered normal table behavior? Would you try talking to the group or would you just leave? Now, there was a response to this. There was an edit, specifically an edit to this specific thing because it's received a lot of replies. But I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, OP, that no, that's not a normal thing. And at most tables, if somebody is away, their character's basically put into like, I don't know, some sort of a limbo, right? The character's put to the side into a limbo that can't be touched or can be involved with. At least that's how I run my games and stuff. If somebody can make it to a session, oh well, the character's busy doing something else. They're off doing something else. They're doing something else that's directly involved. Therefore, the character is off limits for everybody else. To have the DM to pull this thing off, well, your character's unconscious and you can't exactly do anything about it, is a bit scummy. It's actually a very, very scummy. Because now what? Somebody could just steal magical items from you. Somebody could steal your gold. Your character can't do anything about it because, well, your character's unconscious, so it's whatever. Temporary effects are whatever, right? Temporary effects is temporary effects, but having this kind of like lack of player autonomy, or I guess player involvement in whatever they're going on to their character, it feels a little bit weird. It feels like basically, you know what it puts you into? It puts you into like a gotcha FOMO, basically. Unless you're attending sessions, your character could be messed with and there's nothing you could do about it, and whatever else other players decide to do, then that's the result. So if you didn't make a session because you're on vacation, God forbid you decide to take a day off to go to another country and do whatever you wanted to do in your personal life, you miss a session. So now, if other players want to toss you into a pit of lava, they can, and your character can't do anything because your character's unconscious. That's really scummy way to do things because it's just not a right way to do it. If somebody is away, stop messing with the character. And DMs should not allow other players to mess with a player character that is currently not present because the player is not at the table. And this whole excuse of, well, your character's unconscious, so it's whatever. They could do it if they can't do it. It's just a game. I mean, yes, I get some people run it as it's just a game, but it's still not going to feel good that something is happening to your character or being done to your character without you not even knowing about it, or somebody mentioning just off like as an offhand on the side comment and stuff. Why do you not have autonomy over your player character when you're away? Why are the players able to mess around and interact with the player character when you're not there and present for it? Is this going to be a standard? I don't think it would be a good standard to deal with. I wouldn't want to deal with this sort of standard. Is somebody to just mess with my character when I'm not at the table? Anyway, let's see what OP said because there is a response to it. Edit. I genuinely didn't expect this many replies. I don't know how Reddit works, Lamau. Thank you everyone who has taken the time to comment. Few people asked me for context, so here it is. The group consists of straight men in the early mid-20s, around 20 to 25. My girlfriend and I were the only queer woman at the table. She actually left the campaign a few sessions ago because she felt the vibes were off and wasn't enjoying the group anyway. Something else that has always bothered me was that in real life, I'm a femme-presenting woman. My character, however, was publicly presented as a man for the campaign. Even though everyone at the table referred to my character as a man in game, the other players would still regularly call my character she because they couldn't seem to separate me from my character. I'd correct them, and they'd usually just laugh it off instead of making an effort to get it right. As for the player who casts a spell, it wasn't the first time he'd done PvP for laughs. On multiple occasions, he's broken my character's nose as a gag. At the time, we all laughed it off because it seemed harmless. But look back, I think it shows a pattern of him treating my character as the butt of the joke. The breast shrinking incident was different though. It happened while I wasn't even at the session. My character was unconscious and involved changing my character's body without asking me. That's what crossed the line for me. Tried talking to the player in the DM, but they brushed it off as harmless and temporary. Needless to say, I would no longer be playing with them. And you know what? Good on you, OP. Good on you. You shouldn't play in these kind of games, especially if the players are going to be bad. And maybe, you know what? Next time when your girlfriend says the vibes are off, maybe you listen to them and follow their intuition, potentially. If the vibes are off, then the vibes are off. I mean, if the guys were just fine, that honestly wouldn't be a problem. But they, yeah, I feel like they kind of crossed the line in this situation. I feel like it might be playing with just with a bunch of chuds, potentially. I hate that the word chud just became a thing. Modern day lingo is the weirdest thing ever. Can I just be honest? Modern day lingo is like cursed. It is so cursed. It is beyond cursed. It is hellish. It is literally utter hell dealing with modern day lingo. But anyway, you're probably just playing with a bunch of dude bro chuds that just want to do the dude bro things, and honestly the vibes are genuinely off, and I'm glad you left, because if this is the kind of thing that's going to continue over and over and they keep playing it off as it's just harmless and temporary fun, then what is the kind of things that are going to be pulling, you know, going extra whenever you're not attending a session, or God forbid when you do attend a session? I feel like it would be kind of uncomfortable at that point if your character's autonomy and anatomies and stuff is somehow changed or disrespected in some way, especially when you're not even there to do anything about it. You can't even say anything about it, and they're playing off as, well, your character was unconscious, so you couldn't do anything about it. Okay, great. Next time my character's unconscious, you guys decide to rob me for everything I have and take all my magic items and dump me off in lava. I guess my character just can't do anything because they're unconscious because of this premise. Haha, right? Just a really dumb concept. And honestly, I'm glad that you decided to leave and not participate with these guys. Kudos on you, OP. I'm proud of you. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.